The Dangote refinery has denied reports that it was reselling cargoes of crude oil bought from the United States and Nigeria to other traders. The spokesperson for the Dangote Group, Tony Chidena, described the report as outright falsehood. Reuters had reported that sources familiar with the matter said the reoffer was linked to technical problems at the refinery. But the Dangote Group said that they are still sourcing for crude from Angola and Libya, and that their crude distillation unit is functioning perfectly well. The Dangote Group urged the public to disregard such news as it only intends to scuttle the refinery, adding that the Dangote refinery is not authorized to sell crude oil purchased from Nigeria. Adesua, I know that we have discussed this at length, you've been away, also with Steve. And you know, the fact of the matter really all boils down to NNPC. At the end of the day, they are the ones that are supposed to be providing crude for the Dangote refinery. And we are hearing all of these accusations and counter-accusations because people that are involved, like Dangote said, are even worse than drug dealers, the mafia. I mean, really, because it really is what it is. But let me take a reaction from Atedo Peter's side. On Twitter, he responded to this actual Reuters story. He wrote, "The Dangote Group refinery has denied this Reuters story, and I believe them. But my point still stands that even if they did sell crude oil, it is natural to actually sell crude oil back into the market instead of tying down your working capital needlessly in certain circumstances. As MD of a young Stanbic IBTC bank, I once sold diesel when we mistakenly did a double order and were stuck with too many drums of diesel, which constituted a fire hazard. That did not mean that we had left investment banking to become diesel sellers, did it? It is not true that crude oil is scarce globally. If it was, the price would skyrocket. We should not confuse a unique Nigerian situation, which is having little free crude to sell at the moment because NNPC and the federal government mortgaged our future recklessly in the past with a global scarcity." So, I mean, your
Definitely.
take on Atedo's tweet as well.
You know, it's very interesting because the Reuters article actually does say that although it is rare, it is not unheard of that people that refineries that take crude oil will resell them.
Yes.
So it's not unheard of. Even if it did occur, it's not a unique situation that has never happened before, that a refinery would take on crude and then resell it into the market. However, I do think that it is important that we shine the light back on NNPC.
Yes.
Because even with the allegations that Dangote made, where he spoke about facilities in Malta, you know, he did call out the NNPC specifically. Now, we have seen rumors on the internet which have not been sourced, which have not been fact-checked. We've not seen any sources to back up these rumors on the internet about Ras or whatever it is.
Ras Hasna Oil.
Yes.
Right?
You know,
in Malta.
Yes, which in Malta, which honestly we have to be very, very careful when we throw out these things. I saw a tweet being fact-checked by Bayo Ononuga, who's a president of the spokesman of the president. You know, he's one of the president's assistants. However, even the fact-check on his tweet, the community note, I cannot say really backs up what people are saying that the community note says. I think we need to be very careful with these things because we are talking about a public company here with Oando that's listed not only on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, but also in South Africa. And so I think that these things do have economic they have economic implications beyond Nigeria's borders. And so the light was shined on NNPC. I do not know why we have now moved to Oando. I think we need to shine that light back on NNPC because even Dangote with his allegations was facing NNPC, and that is our own
absolutely
our future that Atedo has said that has been mortgaged.
I mean, that's your point about this whole thing having serious implication is the main thing, really, because I mean, you cannot talk about the oil industry and not worry about your own country and how it's perceived in the outside world. I like the fact that you mentioned this Rasna Oil. I mean, the Oando Group have debunked that claim, saying that they do not own any shares in any blending plant in Malta. And I also remember that you told me that you did your own independent verification and you could not find any blending plant in Malta.
You know, there are terminals there, there are storage tanks there. People are using the existence of a storage tank to imply that it means there's a blending plant there. These are two separate entities, they're separate things, and I think we need to be very careful, because when these false maybe propaganda, when this false information becomes very widely spread, people assume it is true, and it is weakening our trust in our government, but it's also weakening a private entity that has nothing to do with the situation on ground.
Steve, you're in
this oily business can be a bit tricky.
Slimy,
murky. You know, my point is that, you know, starting from Dangote, is to say that, you know, if Africa's richest man can be going through this sort of a thing, I think we mentioned it a bit, you know, yesterday when we were closing the show, you know, that sometimes when Nigeria happens on you, all you have to do is to pray that it happens to you in a good way. It's not looking like that for Africa's richest man, because it's an industry where the stakes are very high. And you are not just dealing with cabals outside of government, you are probably also dealing with cabals in government. But then when we now zero down to the idea of what is right, what is correct in terms of information and allegations that are flying about, I don't think that it's our job to overly do PR for anybody. If we're asking for the NNPC to defend itself, because Alhaji Dangote somehow called them out, if there's a kind of information flying around and Oando's name or any other company's name, you know, crops up, I think it is important for them to also defend themselves.
Which they have, you know, they have released a statement.
Way that, I mean, the way that NNPC is doing. And it isn't about whether anybody is right. I mean, I'm not so sure that when we are fact-checking that we are the most qualified to do that. It is their duty to convince the people that what is being alleged is not true. The same way that Dangote is responding, I believe, not just to Reuters, but also to Bloomberg. I think there was also
it was Reuters
a story.
And Bloomberg.
Exactly, and Bloomberg. I mean, my point when they responded was that I thought that they had to, you know, that there ought to be full disclosure. I was expecting that their defense would be a lot more vociferous than just denying.
Well, they didn't just deny. They actually did. They didn't just deny. They said all the.
Yeah, to the Group Chief Commercial Officer of Dangote Industries Limited, Rabi Umar, who actually came out to lament against like the government's lackadaisical attitude towards the refinery, and even going ahead to say that they were being intentionally sabotaged.
My point was about the Reuters and the Bloomberg story, which I think Atedo Petersai, responded to. But then the caveat that he gave. Suggested that, okay, Dangote has denied, but it
even
is,
if selling,
I'm not so sure if that was a smart thing to do.
That's Atedo.
This
is right, yes.
But then he's defending Dangote.
Yes, but
so Dangote, so my point is that, you know, the clarity has to be not in doubt that we are not selling anything, even though we're tying down capital and there are issues with it.
They did not just say they are not selling. They are still importing. How can they still be importing if, you know, at that point? That's number one. They are still importing. They said they are still importing from Angola. They are even still importing. That means they still need crude. That's number one. Number two, the claim by Reuters is that 4 sources had said that the reason that they are selling the crude is because their refinery, their distillers, is not working or not functioning properly. And that was the reason the source said, and which the Dangote Group has outrightly denied and debunked, and have invited the public to actually come into the refinery to see by themselves, whether or not those
refineries
distillers are
And
working.
also, going off of what Audrey has said, they had also last week called the NUPRC to come and even test what they were refining.
Absolutely.
They asked them to bring their own independent testers and test what they were refining.
However,
Beyond that, and I think this is very important because you did say that we should not be doing PR for any private organization. However, what we need to do is inform the public and let the public know when things are well checked, that when they're based in fact, when they're based in realities, because again, as I said, for example, Owando is a public listed company, not only on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, but also in South Africa. This has international implications. Even the Dangote refinery has international implications. The same authors who wrote the Dangote article in Reuters had previously wrote that the Dangote refinery can have negative implications for refineries in Europe. So this has international implications. And so I think that it is actually our role as journalists to make sure that the public is well informed.
Yes,
and that they know that, if there is a rumor, that this is a rumor, if something is being said online, no matter how many times something is said, it does not make it true.
Absolutely. You said it well, right? Because we did see that tweet that was trending from Anonymous, I believe, and people bought into that tweet. It's definitely is inaccurate because we have seen that.
I don't refer to such.
No, I have to.
To such
offside. No, it's
But
what is important? It's so important because social media is so.
Himself made an allegation.
Yes.
Don't let us lose focus of
on
that fact.
And which is
on the blender thing in Malta.
The Malta.
So what is happening in Malta? Who is involved?
Those are
those are the things that we shouldn't. So if there are names cropping up, investigations must never stop, even when deniers are coming up.
Yes, and then when you come with your denials,
shine the light back on NNPC to be able to actually find out
point.
exactly what these allegations
are. And when the denials come, they should come with receipts. Really, they should come with receipts, not just.
Sometimes they tell you that. They will tell you that he who alleges must prove.
Well, we need to know. Absolutely well said, John.